Welcome once again to this our session. In the previous session, we look at variables. We used some examples to see how we actually use variables generally, right? In this session, we want to pause right on variables and actually focus on how to name variables because it's a very key thing. Because throughout your coding, your programming, you'll be doing using variables almost every time. So Python has conventional programming language, right? Programmers around the world have a convention to naming of variables in programming in general, but then we are going to focus on Python. So Python convention of naming variables, right? So in the previous session, we look at an example, and then we said variables comes in the form of name equals to something. So the name is the name of the variable, right? So you have the variable name will be equal to something. So let's use an example. So in the previous session, we're using an example like this. Name is equal to, let's say, student, for example. You see that the variable name that we have created, or we say the container that we have is labeled as name, and then what we are putting inside that container is the data student. So whenever we use the container name, right, meaning student is inside that container, so we're using it. So variables are just like we just assume that they are containers, right? So like that's a variable. So this is a typical example. But then the focus now is no more going to be on what we put inside, but the focus is now going to be on how we name variables. We look at name here, an example, right? Small letters and all that. If you look at the top, there are categories of data that we can use to actually create a variables. So we have groups or category of them. So you have letters, that's A, B, C, D up to Z. Then we have numbers, right? 0 up to 9. And then we have symbols, right? Yes. So these ones are what is available for us to name stuff when we are using our keyboard or anywhere. Oh yes, that's what we have generally. But then which of them or what rules are there in order to make a variable is what is very, very, very important. One key thing about the name of the that you give to your variable is the beginning, what you use to start a particular variable, right? So if you look at this particular one, I've actually started with name, right? Small n, and that small n is a smaller letter, it's a small letter. That's one thing that we notice about it, right? Yes, so it's a small letter, and yeah, it's a letter, and it is a small letter, right? It's not a number. I haven't started with a number. Okay, here's what you have to know. Generally, what is more convenient to do is that you start your variables with small letters. Start your variables with small letters. Okay. Now, why am I saying start with small letters and why not something like this? I will give another example. Name equals to teacher. Yeah. So you see this one, I use capital N, but then Python is not giving me any error. I want to explain something to you. Um, variables are is one concept, right? One group of objects or one group of items in Python that we use, and there are other things like that that are also an other groups. So something like starting with a naming of something or one of those concepts with a capital N is for a particular group, not for variables. So if you use capital N, for example, to make your variable, we are actually building classes. We'll talk about that when we get there. But right now, the name convention for variables, right, should start with letters. That's the standard. It should start with letters and then it should be small letters. That's the standard. So you should use capital letters because of that. Because starting with the name for capital letter is for other concepts that we'll look at. But for variables, we are concerned with small letters. So we all agree on that. Okay. Now, can we start with numbers? Okay, let me not tell you, but let's practice it as you see an example. Let me start with a number 2. I just use two name. You see that Python has an error, right? Let me clean that. What does it tell us? We can start with a number. We cannot start variable with a number. Let me put it at the end and see. Oh, okay. There's no error, and that is accepted. Yes. So just that you don't start with a number. So you can put the 2 anywhere that you want. You can put it here. You can put it anywhere that you want. But then the only place that where you have issue is when you put it at the beginning or any other number. You put it at the beginning again. Yes. Any other number. So the digits, right? You don't use to start any variable. Okay. So we have agreed on that one too. We have understood that we don't use numbers, right? Now let me clean it and get you Now, what about symbols? Can I start with symbols? Hmm. Yeah, let's see. Oh, also an error, also a mistake, right? Also an error. That's an ampersand. Oh no, that's a dollar sign. It's not. There's also a mistake, right? Okay, let's use the error. Hyphen. Hyphen is not giving us any error. Now underscore. Yes. So underscore. So among all the symbols, right, the one that's accepted to use is an underscore. So mostly we'll be using the underscore. You can use you are allowed to use underscore to create your variable. But if you use underscore, it's meaning a particular type of variable. But then let us now know that among all the symbols, the one that is allowed to use is the underscore. And that underscore, right, can start or end. That underscore can be anywhere in the code. It can be anywhere in the name of the variable, right? It can be anywhere. It can be in the beginning and everywhere. So um, you can either start with a small letter or you can start with an underscore. And when you use an underscore, it has a different meaning. We'll talk about that later. So, but the underscore is the only symbol that's accepted, and it can be anywhere in the name. Okay. Now let's remove the underscore, and now we focus on what if I have underscore. If I have underscore now at the beginning, can I now use after using the underscore? Can I use numbers to continue? Yes, we can use numbers to continue. Once underscore has started, once a letter, so those guys that are allowed to start are underscore or small letters. So if underscore small letters start, anything that follow doesn't matter. Anything that follow doesn't matter. So your mind should not go in. If I say anything that follow doesn't matter, does not mean that you should go and start filling the rest with a space. So that introduces the next thing. If I want to write a name, like first name, right? First name. So let's see, let's put a space. Because you say that's small letter, right? Put a space inside. There's going to be an error. It's a block. It should be a block. It should be connected. The name should be connected. But this is not a convenient way of writing this, right? This is not a convenient way of saying this. How will you, is it easy to read this? Well, let me write this one. First name. Now, there are more than one word in this naming. There are more than one word in this naming. So I have first name, and then the second one have first name as well. So you see that uh, this name first name is comprises of two words, right? But they are combined together. So if you are putting them together and you're using small letters throughout, the reading may be confusing, right? It may be confusing, especially I have more like three words. So I can have like first name here. So and then I have something like first name here. You see that? So we have the first name here. And then for the first one, because you have to do a particular work, extra work in order to read the word very well. But then the second one is like first, then you have capital letter starting another one name, and then capital letter starting another here. So each word that is inside, right? Aside the first word has to start with capital small letters always. But then any other word that you want to attach to it within the name, right? It should start with capital letter. So it's like you start with a small letter, then you go up, then you come down, then you go up. If the next one you come down, you go up, you come down. If you are doing that, going up and come down, going up and come down, there's an animal in the desert, right? That is called camel. So the camel has this hump at his back all the time, like that, right? It's like you are going up and come down, just like the back of the camel, right? Because of that, this type of naming type, we call it camel case, camel. First name here and those things. So it's like you are starting capital letter for the next word, capital letter for the next word. So you're going up and down. That's why you call the camel case. Now the first, so this is nice, this is good. But then what programmers are more inclined to is not that one. There are actually two. You also have the snake case. So let's look at that. Now the snake case is where your underscore helps you. Snake case is where the words, right, are separated by underscores. So it's like this underscore is like a snake within the name, right? small. It's not like going showing up, but it's like down, down like that, right? So yeah. So first name here, it just give you, so it's first separated by them by a space. If you separate them by a space, you are just creating a camel case variable. So yeah, that's how those names are. But then there shouldn't be space. And if they want to introduce a space, use the underscore. And then it's more convenient to use the underscore because that's what most people are inclined to. So first name here is easier to read, right? But then you can still use this one. So in most cases you see us using this one and all that. So yeah, there are a lot of things that we have actually talked about in these naming conventions, right? Then let's look at a few examples. But before that, when you are selecting a name, right, the name should be descriptive. I mean that if you are keeping like a name student, so the name student here, right, and I'm going to name this container number one. So we are keeping a student, then we say number one. So the name should describe what the student is, right? What the container is, so that you yourself, when you're using it in the rest of the lines of code, you can remember, oh, that's it. So you name it according to how you can like label it. You give it a correct label, so you can actually relate to it when you are using the rest of the code. Idea is more convenient to say student one. Student one makes more sense, right? Student one because it's like student one, so student, teacher one, like that. So it should be descriptive. That's something you also have to keep in mind, that the variable should also be descriptive. Are you okay? Yes. So let's look at a few examples. So you see that I have an example, a first name Frank, right? Yeah, first name Frank is there. Then we have um first name, the camel case and snake case. I have other examples here. So let's look at a few practices. So username hyphen name. The hyphen is separating them. So this conversion is a bad practice. It's not good to use something like this. It starts with a underscore, right? But whatever follows, right? Uh, the 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 most convenient symbol to keep inside is the underscore. Hyphen is not going to help. So it's a bad practice. Now this one x is equal to x for symbol, that is. So now I just wrote x. X is equal to something. It's not really descriptive in most cases. In most cases, unless you're doing x and y function things, but mostly x is going to contain a very special kind of code or number or something. It's not descriptive, so you should make it descriptive depending on what you want to have, so that your container should have a label, and that label should be very well descriptive. So if you x, you are doing functions, yeah. But then this is a name, right? Now we have end with a symbol that is not underscore. We want to use we use let's use another symbol to end it and see. So you see that, okay, yes, underscore here. So you see that Python has an issue with that. This one and another one. Python has issue with each of the other symbol that you add. But then see, if you add underscore, Python does have an issue, right? Yes. So you see where we are driving at, right? So yeah, if you put any other thing there, Python will have an issue unless you use an underscore. The next one is now here the symbols are used, right? But then it is not at the end, but it is in the within. And if you see that it is still red, we actually don't use, you actually don't use the symbols, right? The only underscore that is general symbol that we use. But yeah, it's using it. Yeah, so it's like, why don't I just do the writing, right? And then so this one is underscore two. So yes, underscore followed by a number. So once underscore starts, right, a number can follow. A number can follow, but the beginning number is not allowed to start. That's the basic thing. And then small letters are to start. Now this is where we have an issue with also. Now we know we are free to select any name, right? But then Python has some inbuilt function within itself. Inbuilt functions. Now or Python has some things that it has given name to, that people can use when you are using Python. So most of them now, you remember we use print, right? So print is that one. It comes with Python as one. Python has named it for itself. So those ones are built-in function names. So if you use a built-in function name, it's not convenient, right? Because Python has that. So you have to be aware of the ones that Python has already, so that when you are naming your containers or your variables, Python it doesn't aligned or it's not the same as theirs, right? Keep that in mind. So you have to avoid what built-in function names. So something like print, right? Print is equal to, it's not, it's a bad practice. And also list built-in function name. List is also another one that we'll look at. Yes, so this is the keynote that we want to take at the end of the day. This is it. So use, we are going to use so it's use, right? It's not user. Use small letters. You have to use small letters, right? In starting throughout. Like, let's use small letters throughout generally, right? But then you can use the camel case or the snake case as you want it. Small, use small letters. Capitalizing is for other Python concepts. The next one, the only symbol for you to use is underscore. This is one is for us, you and I, for to do the writing, right? Using underscore for the symbols in naming of the variables. Um, the next one is never start with numbers. This one we have shown it multiple times, and not never start with other symbols aside what underscore. Then beware of not using built-in function names. Yes, we talk about it. And some are here, some and dict. Just be beware of that. So when we are moving forward, you'll be seeing some of the function names that you know that okay, when you want to name your variable, you know how to use it. Let's meet in the next session and move on with building our concepts.